Welcome back to the Intention Podcast with Tami Palmer, a show where we unpack what it truly means to live life with intention. Today, we're talking about aging and identity. To help us dive into this topic, I've invited one of my most trusted guides, Esther Cohen, to join me in this conversation. Esther is an intuitive healer, a medicine woman, a teacher who blends science, Chinese and traditional medicine with energetics, ancestral constellations, and embodiment in her work. Esther is a master herbalist, an intuitive guide, and she's even a clown. She draws on decades of study in functional medicine, somatic psychology, and sacred theater to support others to listen to their body's wisdom, release trauma, and reclaim vitality. The intention woven in her work is to inspire people to awaken to their potential, access their creativity, and build unshakable self-love. That might give you an idea of why I keep her around as one of my most trusted guides. Esther, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor and a blessing to join you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have, when I first ideated around this podcast with the intention of bringing on my guides, my closest friends, those people that I get into long, incredible conversations with that just go on and don't seem to ever have an appropriate end, that we could just keep talking forever. You're definitely at the top of the list, top 5. And I'm so excited to be able to record one of our fascinating conversations and share it with the audience. So excited for that.
I love the inspiration that you bring that opens up that capacity and channel to share wisdom
Thank
with you.
you. Thank you. And for our listeners, I've known Esther, decades, back into the mid 2000s, I believe. And I sought Esther out when she was really focused on her nutritional counseling work, which is a deep part of her, but not her main focus right now. And I was in a place where I was getting a migraine from half a can of Coke. I was so toxic and my system needed so much work. And she helped me get through that, got to a really healthy place. And then I started to realize that she has way more to offer than just that. And she ended up serving as a life coach for me because she would hear about my troubles and what I was struggling with. And her wisdom was something I always really sought out. And it was a conversation with Esther, I will never forget it, that got me on the path to have the courage to leave an employment situation where I was an employee and go out on my own. And I didn't even totally know what that was going to be, but I don't know if I would have made that leap, if I would have made it then, had I not had that conversation with you. And so I thank you for that and for getting me on this path to really claim my voice.
Well, thank you. And I feel like that is the heart and soul of the work and support that I'm here to offer, is to help each individual find out what is their authentic voice, what is your original blueprint, what you chose to come into this lifetime to learn, to express, to achieve, and to really embody, so that your offering, your gifts, your genius is truly an expression of who you are.
How do you help people figure that out? How do they know what their intention is for this lifetime and what their soul wants to do? Because that's the thing that I, as a career coach, try and help people figure out and people really struggle with.
Well, I think that we get little clues from the beginning of our kind of journey here as a embodied soul, and that often kind of our gifts, when we choose, if we are of that capacity and consciousness in the Bardo, in the Buddhist tradition, they believe that in the Bardo, if you are of an elevated soul that you have choice and you can choose, oh, I want to come and bring kindness uh, to the planet, to humanity. And in that choice, then in the Kabbalistic tradition, once we are born, we actually get born into the opposite of that, to experiencing what lack of compassion and lack of kindness, how that shows up in our experience. And so by really listening to someone's story, and understanding those points of trauma where the system became dysregulated and kind of out of balance, then we can go back and start to see a certain thread or pattern through one's life that's starting to express a theme.
Mm.
And that theme can be a sense of genius, whether it's in mathematics or art or music or personal relationship. You start to see how throughout these patterns, and often these patterns are patterns of survival or
Mhm.
patterns of coping, but we start to see flavors of what one's essential nature is expressing.
Mhm. I
And,
know
and
I've really tried to pay attention to patterns, partly from your help and Eric's help with my astrology guidance. I know you know Eric as well, and have sought his counsel out. We have a tight little community here of my guides. Um, we all know each other, um, but I've noticed a pattern of that. I think either I died in a past lifetime from starvation, or it's ancestral trauma in my coding from being a Jewish woman today, which means that I've inherited the whole Jewish lineage of trauma and persecution and likely starvation. Um, and so when I think about food, it's 24/7. I woke up at 3 in the morning, and the first thing I thought about is like, what am I going to have for lunch? And it's this constant thing. I go to the grocery store, I overbuy, my pantries are overflowing. And it's like, I can never have enough. Don't put me in front of a buffet. I'm going to eat everything there. And I don't have that on off switch because I have this soul hunger. Right. And I understand that's what it is because I've not experienced hunger in this lifetime. Thank goodness. I've had a very good, solid upbringing and adulthood where food scarcity wasn't something I had to suffer with. But I know that's there.
well, the beautiful topic that you just dipped into here. One of my many backgrounds is I've been working in eating disorders for probably 25 years. And looking at it and it as an ancestral component is really crucial, especially for women, because throughout the feminine history, we have been starved in a way to keep our own identity down. And particularly back in the Rosicrucians and in different religious sects, where young girls were starved to be more angelic. And the
Oh,
more
geez.
angelic believed to be closer to godliness. And so that was a woman's way to connect with spirit, to connect with God, was by being less than herself.
Wow.
And so as a feminine teacher, there's so much starvation of our what I'll call our original blueprint, our sense of self. If you look back in history, you'll see that, like in museums, there's very few self portraits of women until the 20th century. because women gave up their own identity. You'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of men.
Hmm.
And so giving up that identity and losing a sense of who am I uniquely in this world, other than a mother, other than a wife, other than someone who puts food on the table, what really nourishes me? And so it's a really deep, deep question that you bring into, because we carry our DNA from our ancestral lineage. You know, it's
Hmm.
the, as much as
Yeah.
we have the expression of, you know, green eyes and brown hair, we have that that starvation, that struggle, that victimization, that especially that runs in the Jewish lineage, of impact in
Hmm.
our DNA. And so it's really working with and unraveling that by working. The constellation work is so beautiful that way, because we go back and talk to our ancestors. We go back and talk to the great great grandmother and great great grandfather, to realize that that patterning can go back into the generations that preceded us. And in that
Mm.
healing, those patterns, we not only heal 3 generations back, but we heal 3 generations forward. So we don't have to continue to carry these patterns, these
Yes.
habitual ways of survival into our next future, and or the future of our children.
And our
And
children's
so,
children.
exactly. So it's a
And
beautiful way of saying the buck stops here, and
right,
I can diminish this
right.
particular frequency, because they're all, you know, what DNA is a frequency vibration
Mm.
that, as it becomes concrete, as it becomes dense and embodied in our physical form, expresses itself as green eyes or olive skin color, whatever that particular frequency is.
Yeah.
And so we have frequencies of starvation, or, you know,
Hmm.
inadequate. And so we're, you know, I like to say we're hungering for what's going to really deeply, deeply nourish, deeply satisfy, and quell that longing. And so it's to really begin to identify, what is that longing, what is that desire.
Right. And it's our real work here to identify some of that, figure out how to break patterns, to heal future. And as we were talking, I just got this idea because, our topic is on identity, and how our identity is really this amalgamation of all of our ancestors, of, like, who are we, but a combination of all these different factors, which makes sense when we think about that we're all really one. That's what we're taught, right? That there isn't really a sense of individuation the way we like to believe it in this American embodied experience of we're all on our own, we're all the cowboys, that we're tied together even more deeply than we thought. And our identity is really the impressions of all of that pushed together.
I'm glad that you stated that way, because um, we want to, we've come to this place of wanting to be so individualistic,
Yes.
and yet, as we're so individual, we're hungering to belong. And one of my patterns that I recognize, you know, in my own development, is my longing to belong, and
Mm.
at a at a expense of losing my own sense of self. You know, it's like, I want to play in
Yes.
your sandbox. What can I do to play in your sandbox? And my life's story has been, but I get kicked out of everybody's sandbox. like for no real reason. It's just like, oh, we just decided that you're, not too cool to be in our sandbox. And so, I have this experience of being alienated and excommunicated, and I can't really understand why. Like, what did I do? Did I, insult someone?
Yeah.
Did I, create an impact? And if I look back in my generations, in my ancestry, they were always alienated. They were kicked out or had to escape, persecution, whether it was in Ukraine or, in Spain or whatever country, my Jewish ancestry was in. They were being alienated,
Hmm.
kicked out. And so this longing to belong has really taught me, like, how do I belong to myself first? And what does that look like? And that's been a really like edgy uh,
Yeah.
journey. Like, oh, what does that mean? How can I love myself if I can't belong to your group?
Well, and that's the crisis of so much where well, I'll make myself small, I'll make myself this, I'll make myself that so that I can be accepted in your sandbox,
Right.
right?
And then
And at the expense of who I actually am, because that doesn't matter, because belonging becomes more important than sense of self.
absolutely. And it's been how can I say, an incredible deep dive for me too, because I was like, oh, I really want intimacy and I really want to belong. And who doesn't want those things? I want
Right.
the partner that I can be just the most intimate with. And in my kind of excavation of this within me, it's like, can I be really intimate with me? And
Mm.
what does that mean? And being able to allow my sense of grief or my sense of failure or however I've identified myself to to move through those so that I could really start to taste something else, to go like, oh, I actually am not one of those people who loves to be the center of the attention or who loves to be a part of the group. Like, if I'm really honest with myself, there are many groups that I have attempted to be a part of that it's just not my group.
Right. Right. I think that's why I'm so focused on building my professional moms community and finding my people, right? And I think it's our life's work. But what we were talking about leads me to explain how, like, why I waited until my mid 50s to launch a podcast, which, people for years have said, oh, you have a great voice and you should talk on this and you should talk on that and you should have a podcast. And okay, yes, but the inspiration wasn't there. And what I realized is, one, I had to develop into the age where we can step into our voice, which I think will be our next topic to dive into. But also, you know, when I looked at my astrology chart and some of the big um, changes that my chart has gone over the last year in particular, I wasn't ready before then. I was in a learning phase, I was in a processing phase, and now I'm in a teaching sharing phase. So it's a combination of, you have to grow into your voice. You have to accept of, I've for years I didn't want anyone to know I was spiritual. I didn't want to share this kind of content with the world. It was quiet. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be normal. And at the expense of my true identity, right? I was playing small. But it was a combination of the astrology wasn't lined up, the time wasn't lined up. I believe our world is ready for this content in ways it wasn't 10 years ago. And so there's also some patience we have to have to step into things in the right light and understand it's a journey and you can't just switch it on. And at 24, I couldn't have stepped into this voice because there were lessons to be learned and things to walk into. So for me, this whole journey with the podcast and saying things out loud, not only out loud, but like broadcasting it across the internet, is completely new. And it's the first, I think, age and time where I feel like I can do it without any hesitation, without worrying if I say this, will I be kicked out of a sandbox? Because I no longer care to be in sandboxes that I don't belong.
It's so important. I can remember in my early 30s, I was just like, "What am I here to do? You know, what's my purpose?" And I'm ready to do it and live it. And there's so much developmental experience that we accrue as we age, and it's an interesting dichotomy in our culture because especially I feel women my age and how we're looked at in this culture is, well, you're useless. You're past your prime, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're good if you can cook a meal for the kids and the grandkids, but beyond that, what do you really have to offer? And that's so backwards
Mm-hmm.
because, as you're saying, this it's the experience, and it's the experience at least for myself, in so many different venues that have woven together to go, oh, this is what I'm learning and truly have to share now,
Mm-hmm.
my experience. And especially when we look at it in a light which is a more spiritual, or what I'll say, really connecting to the animate everything, the life that surrounds us, so that we can live in a synergistic dynamic
Mm-hmm.
with life. And it takes a bit of maturity to really reach that place, as we go through these different stages. And it does coalesce with our astrology. I, at the beginning of the year, had a session with Eric as well. It was like, oh, these next 15 years, you're like out on a big stage, and this is, you're going to be teaching internationally. And I'm like, really? Really? Aren't I like too old for that? And so it's been a beautiful topic on my mind. That's like, actually, no,
Yeah.
you have, you know, gained this amount of experience and wisdom and kind of hit up against walls and had failures and had successes. And all of that richness really weaves together to go, oh, this is what my spirit is yearning for. So it's like we go
Mm-hmm.
to school and become more educated, and that we're constantly learning in this field of self-development. And it's so interesting because in the work I do, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, I see so many people at very young ages teaching what I'll call sacred shamanic wisdom. And I think, well, either they were like born right into it.
Right.
Lucky for them.
Yeah.
And but it's a hard one today. There's such a spiritual bypassing
Yes.
that feels uh, um, like a cultural uh, uprising, which is, there's an aspect that's lovely because it's a beauty of really bringing prayer and bringing recognition into um, our humanity in a way that definitely didn't happen when I was growing up. But and I mean like non-secular prayer when I say that. There's not a religiosity to it, but just really building upon years and years of experience
Mm-hmm.
that I think is golden, and we've diminished in this particular culture today that I think is screaming for elders to, impart their wisdom. So it's a
Yes.
beautiful opportunity, a ripeness that you're sharing what you are on such a big platform.
I what's your take on the word crone and the identity of, you're moving into your crone years?
So that was a real battle for me. I like the idea of going from a mother to queen.
Right.
We're gonna like put off crone
Script the
until
crone.
yeah until we
Yeah.
move into that. But I think that it it lost some sense of respect, just as the word I think shaman has lost a sense of respect, that it's not our cultural word.
Mm.
And it comes much more from particularly the shaman, the Siberian culture, and we're kind of amalgamizing different cultures, whether it's South American, Peruvian, through a lot of the plant medicines, or the shamanic, and the indigenous peoples' cultures. And how do we take the like real gemstones of these
Hmm.
teachings and incorporate them into something that's authentic and truthful for us rather than becoming that. And so I think with the crone, which is much more, I will say, Eastern European,
Hmm.
so much more in our lineage, like
Yes.
accepting that as the wisdom. And I really recently like understood the Baba Yaga, the story there of the crone, and that's what she is, who really kind of puts you back on yourself, like in
Tell the
that.
story for everyone. I don't know that our audience knows that.
Uh, so there's a young girl, Annalisa, and she and her mother are very, very close. And there is the village is starving to death. And Annalisa says, Mama, I have to help. I feel this calling. I must help to go and help our people. And she's going to go to the crone who lives in the forest, Baba Yaga, many miles away, and it's a very treacherous journey. And her mother says, I can't go with you, but gives her a doll. And this doll is representing um, her mother's love, her mother's essence. And she puts the doll in her pocket and she goes to visit the grandmother, the crone. And she gets to her house, and the fence is lined with skulls that are
Oh,
flaming. It's very scary. And
yes.
the house is up on like turkey feet. It's just really a very difficult place to approach.
Hmm.
Gets to the house, and she puts her hand in her pocket and she clenches her doll, and her doll gives her the strength to approach the Baba Yaga. And when she approaches her, she says, "Oh, my pretty, I'm going to basically eat you unless you can uh, complete these three tasks." And this first task is like finding a little gemstone in a mound of seeds. Like it's an impossible task to
Okay.
do. And she gives her three tasks, and with each of these tasks, they get more difficult. And she rubs her doll and cries and prays to her doll. And the doll basically gives her the gift and the wisdom of completing each task. And ultimately she achieves these different tasks. And the whole uh, essence of this story is the doll connects her with her own inner wisdom, that she
Mm.
believes in herself.
Okay.
Okay, she has taken the ancestry of her matrilineal line, her mother,
Hmm.
and that's what she is praying to and incorporating in herself as she faces the great grandmother.
Wow.
So she no longer becomes afraid, but she basically integrates these centuries of wisdom into her being. And so she's
Okay.
able to go back into her village and
Yeah.
nourish her people.
Okay. That those stories are such great teachers
They
and really
are
share.
the mythology. That's one of the things I
Mm-hmm.
like to do in my work is really incorporate what is your archetype, what is the
Mm.
mythology that your life has been expressing,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can greet that part of yourself, with more curiosity and more ease rather than fear and like, oh my, that's my shadow,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
befriend it.
Right. Today's episode is brought to you by Tarley Skincare Studio and Lab in Park Ridge, founded by esthetician, formulator, and face yoga instructor Maya Alexic. I'm excited to feature Maya's business as I've attended her face yoga class and found it a fantastic alternative to Botox and chemical aging solutions. Maya and I connected years ago with a shared love of metaphysical curiosity. She's been a part of my professional moms network for many years. Tarly offers a mindful, results driven approach to skincare by blending gentle, organic formulations with clinical expertise. Specializing in non invasive rejuvenation, their treatments focus on lifting, sculpting, and restoring the skin naturally without needles or harsh procedures. From personalized facials and neo-lifting massage to supportive treatments for teen skin, every service is designed with a whole body, long-term approach in mind. More than a skincare studio, Tarly is a space for connection, hosting wellness events, hands-on workshops, and experiences that support and bring women together. Here are some of their upcoming events happening this spring, such as their Mother's Day face yoga and facial acupuncture experience on May 10th, do-it-yourself body scrub workshop with shopping experience from Catch on May 14th, holistic approach to acne with acne acupuncture event on May 31st. If you're also interested in sponsoring this podcast, reach out. My social influence is strong and my reach is wide. I'd love to feature your business. One thing that we talked about in our planning our discussion was, or what I want to go next is talking a little bit about. I mentioned in your bio that you're a clown, and that's such a unique thing to have inserted into a bio. And I remember when you were going to clown school. So tell us a little bit about that, both from what it was, but also the why behind it.
Well, when I first went to clown school, which was a suggestion of my mentor, I had no idea what or why I was going to this. And I went to a school in Canada, and I will say it was a 3-week process. It was the deepest, most profound kind of ripping away of aspects of myself to really kind of come to what it meant to share uh, my experiences through storytelling, and not the telling of a story, but through the acting of that story in a really small period of time that would have an impression upon the audience, that would um, ignite their own feeling center to whatever was being expressed. And the clown is a disruptor. The clown is one who uh, begins to awaken parts of ourself
Hmm.
because they're reflecting it back to us.
Oh, wow.
And if that makes sense. So they are,
Yeah.
you know, they they can be a very difficult figure, and they can also enliven and bring joy
Mm-hmm.
to the situation. And astrologically, for me, I'm Leo rising. And so my Cancer has always been like, oh, no, not so much. And the clown really brought out that sense of uh, being able to bring both an audience to tears and curiosity, and open the heart, open that chakra, and bring joy and laughter. And so for me, moving into a sense of what it means to raise our frequency to one of joy and laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives us a way of laughing at ourselves where we're not so identified. You know, we don't take ourself, our pattern, so seriously, but we take the authenticity of who we are very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And so that clown work has been a real gem to joy.
Yeah. You brought it, you were at one of our retreats and had us doing laughter yoga at the retreat.
That was the beginning of the evolution. I was in,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kind of a funny story because I was in one of those dark periods of my life where I felt depressed, where I felt, what am I doing with my work? And I have the uh, good grace that I live on some beautiful land, and I was out on the land crying for a number of days, and I was like, Spirit, just tell me what I should do next. And it said laughter yoga, and I was like, what? What the hell? And and realizing that laughter is probably one of the next highest vibrations, healing vibrations on this planet,
Yes.
and how much we diminish that. And to simply laugh and release that energy in our body, and then do a yoga nidra, which is a yoga of really accessing each body part and allowing it to relax, helps to reorganize our nervous system
Mm.
in a way that allows for there to be more breath, more expansion, more capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can see that. I I I keep quoting a Dan Savage quote, who's a sex educator. He's been around forever. And as we look at our kind of troubling times we're living through right now, which I say we're in the revolution. Um, he said back in the 80s, in the AIDS crisis, in the mornings we buried our brothers, in the afternoon we protested, and at night we danced. And we protested to preserve the dance. Because if we weren't dancing, then why were we here? And it's just that reminder that even in tough times that feel so daunting, it's maybe even more important to find laughter and joy and to not feel guilty for it, which I think a lot of people do, which keeps them in a lower vibration, which helps feed the situation.
Absolutely. And the dance that you brought that in. So, in these pieces that I do, we always dance because we embody all of these tensions, all of these feelings, all of this
Mm-hmm.
depression, in our cells, in our tissues. And dance has been, I will say, it's my most religious, most sacred practice that I've been immersed in for the last 10 years. And
Mm-hmm.
dancing allows it to move through your body, to really somaticize that experiences and release what we don't need, the tensions, the aggression, and to integrate then a sense of integrity and a sense
Mm-hmm.
of love. And so it is so important. That's a really profound um, orientation that he's offering there, is that we start with what we are so upset about, and move that grief. Grief is meant to move and
Mm-hmm.
not be stagnant in our systems. And recently there were the All Kings protest, and I'd had a really kind of deep meditation with myself that morning and a good cry. And I went just to our little town in Longmont. And I hadn't planned to go, but I wanted and just to have my spirit there as part of it. And I was so literally just kind of blown away by the experience because it was so deep and so profound. I couldn't speak. Every time I tried to open my mouth, I was crying. And it wasn't sadness, it was the joy of seeing so many different cultures and so many ages come together.
Hmm.
And it was just a really moving experience that I didn't expect. I was kind of blown away by it. And then that night to go dance and move all that energy, it was, it was as if I, taken an IV or something,
Right.
right?
It's like you're
So
high.
it was such a profound medicine for my being.
Hmm. I'm actually helping to coordinate a lot of the No Kings protests in my town, and was active in the last one. And the sense of joy, the collective energy. Sometimes there's music and we're singing together, and it is a real vibrational raising experience to be. And that, but it comes back to what we talked about at the beginning, which is we're all one. And it
Mhm,
is one of those things that that gives a sense of belonging, and that shows the combined humanity of us and our connection. I um i just, like probably all of us, I was fascinated by the Artemis crew and the astronauts and watching their feeds. And I watched something with I'm blanking on the female astronaut, but she was speaking afterwards about the experience. And at the end, she was talking about what makes a crew and how it's different than a team, and how the components of a crew. And then she said, I looked back on Earth floating in all the blackness and just thought of it as a lifeboat in the universe, and everybody on it is the crew. And I just can't let that go of, that's the disconnection we're having right now, is we've forgotten we're all on the same crew.
mhm.
And we all have this belief that's foisted upon us by different parties of power, that we're in different crews and we're at war with each other. But really, it's the collective. And so when we do things like protest, it reminds us that, oh, I don't know that person, but we're in the same crew.
That's really a profound way to begin to understand our times, and
Mhm.
also that we've been doing this as humans for thousands of years. For the last 10,000 years, we've created wars, and we've been the belief system against the other belief system, and dominating and back and forth. It's a loop that we
Yes.
are in as humanity. And I think as we start to get a bigger perspective, then we can start to understand what is my job as a crew
Mhm.
member. I think as a crew, you're responsible for a very particular and very important aspect of running the
Yes.
spacecraft, right? Which is
Yes.
different than it's a little different than a team, but it's like I'm going to really um, be responsible to my authentic nature. And that's where I think it
Mhm.
ties in with, you know, who are we as souls coming in here? And what is that genius, that I can contribute to the
Yep.
crew? And it's not one is better than another. It's all this like incredible flavoring that brings the richness to the capacity that we have. And that's what I could feel in those protests, like, wow, listen to this music. It's not a vibe that I particularly dance to, but wow, that's super cool, you know.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
rather than, oh, it's not mine.
Right. Right. That is just expressing sentiments and energies that I'm aligned with.
Hmm.
And
And not being afraid of that discovery, which is my expression, or which we so often do, I think, in this culture, is we compete. Like,
mhm.
what your job is, mine isn't as good as yours. And
Right.
so I want yours, or I want to look like that. Or if I dress this way, I'll be accepted.
Yeah.
And, just to circle back to your aging, I think I'm finally getting, to that age where it's like, excuse me, I just want to wear what I want to wear.
Totally. Yep.
And often I think, oh, well, I shouldn't wear that. I'm too old to wear that. And then I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. And,
Or
and
you get
so,
to an age where you're like, well, no one's paying attention to me apparently because I'm of a certain age, so I'll just wear whatever the hell I want.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody's really looking at me. They've decided I'm their grandmother anyhow. And so,
Right.
right.
Yeah, there's a freedom to it. Well, all of what we just talked about cues up perfectly with the whole theme and activities for my fall retreat in Glenwood Springs. So I'm just going to tease that up really quick because it's all aligned. But we're focusing on what's the role you're going to play in the revolution, and the whole first day is on identity, on who understanding who you are. We're going to do a core values workshop, and then move into this book that I've come across that's about how we can get our hands around social change. And it actually breaks it out to about 18 different roles that people play in social change. And the book is a glossary of concepts around it. And what we're going to do is kind of identify ours and understand what our role is so that we can release guilt of, oh, I'm not doing enough to save the world, or I'm not going to do anything because my work doesn't matter. And instead say, oh, well, I'm really aligned with this archetype and with this role. And now I have some ideas of things I could do, maybe in my community with my local school, that could help move that process forward, because it is all about us all taking small roles. So, but first you have to understand who you are, which is identity.
Mhm. And
And
and really also, I think something that we miss, and something I have missed, is maybe you aren't someone who's on the center stage. Maybe you're not the organizer of the event, but maybe you have just really compassionate, clean energy that you offer. I remember many years ago, one of my teachers talking about how some of the most evolved people that we actually miss because they're so understated, they're
yeah,
Gardner, and that the power of your energetic belief system and field and consciousness that you hold is really a gift to this revolution, to this change. And so maybe you're not the organizer of the event, but you're just the contributor, or maybe you bring cakes and cookies to,
right.
someone's event, but that spirit and energetic flow emanates out to the whole. So it's, and I say that so that to not diminish any role that we may have, but to really see the richness and in each of the contributions that we can make to this change.
For sure. And if we're all, high powered leaders, then who's going to get anything done? Like, we all have to have a role.
And we
And
can't
that
all be
we can't all be in charge.
right, or
um,
visionaries, or
right. And some of us in charge don't want to be doing this stuff and they want some help. And so there's all the balance of, but understanding your role and understanding what your contribution could look like can help you lead into a stronger sense of identity and purpose.
and satisfaction. I think that's something that,
Yeah.
to really feel like, yeah, this feels good.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that I mean, as a culture and of myself, it's like accomplishment, accomplishment.
Yeah.
If I'm really good at this,
Right.
and um, in the well, who am I to really say that? And so getting you know getting past all those accolades are things that we need, so that it's like, yeah, I'm going to live my truth,
Hmm. Yeah.
and people feel that.
And it's beautiful. I feel like we've covered about all the different topics we had in mind. Is there anything that I'm forgetting that you were excited to talk about today?
I'm really excited about the stepping into kind of the next level of my work. And through that um, is through a workshop that I call Unmasked. And
Mm.
it's starting to step into our uh, original blueprint of who we are, but through the orientation of our shadow work. Like, what are some of the shadow characters that we, don't really like to engage with, or have been handed down through our ancestry, whether it's that sense of starvation and
Hmm.
hunger. Who is she? And working with a number of different art forms. We'll be making physical masks, but not in a way where you consciously think, oh, this is what this mask looks like. We'll be tapping into that unconscious creative center and allowing the unfoldment, so
Mm.
that then you'll be able to embody that character, that embody that starving aspect of yourself, and give her a voice, and give her a theatrical performance. It's where the clown work will come in, so she gets to dress up and wear the clothing, and dance and move and energetically, you know, embody that beautiful aspect of yourself. So you're no
Mm.
longer kind of like trying to unravel her and push her away and let her go. I can't say how many fires I've let different aspects of myself go in, only to find out, oh, they're still there. And so it's an aspect of truly befriending and integrating the wisdom of that character into
Yeah.
our being, so that we can no longer struggle with it, but allow that voice to become integrated into our authentic being, and doing so through what I call mythical theater.
Mm.
So there is a performance, there is an opportunity to be witnessed, and allow this aspect of ourself to come alive. And so I'm really excited about this work, because it integrates so much of the constellation work, the energetic work, because we're working from those places, and to start to deeply connect to our own inner knowing, our deep intuition.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Now, is that just for people in Colorado, or is that also an online option?
There's not an online option, that is an in person
Okay.
option. And it's not just in Colorado. We already have people coming from, Utah and
Oh,
California.
okay.
Yeah, so it's a 4-day retreat.
It's a retreat. Okay. I was thinking it was a class that happened every week or something
No,
like that.
it's
It's a week.
consolidated.
Okay. So something that people could fly in for. And yes,
Absolutely.
got it. Got
And
it.
it's
Or my
beau-
Colorado audience, obviously, it's right in your backyard. So you can
right.
inquire too. That
And it's on
sounds
beautiful
fabulous.
land, and there'll be incredible organic food. It's kind of all of the different aspects of what I've done over the years integrated into one.
Nice.
It is a 4-day deep dive.
Okay.
And what will be online is I'm starting a uh, deep, um, what I call mentor program,
Hmm.
that will take the body of work, and it's called the alchemy of living, and it's the authentic blueprint, how to work with yourself, but then take that work out into whatever aspect of work you do in the community. So you can
Wow.
be a healer, you can be a psychotherapist, you can, you know, be a business coach, whatever aspect you have, but how to really take these different practices that you will actually be integrating and doing with yourself and bring them out into your work in the world.
Okay. That sounds fabulous. So, a retreat on her incredible piece of property in Colorado and a online program offering. And people can find you. Do you want to share your website or how people should reach out to you?
So currently my website is in regeneration
I thought you were like rebuilding it. Yeah. Some rebranding happening.
and all of those things. And because of some external um, issues, it's not open and available. But the best way to reach out to me is just email to
Perfect.
alchemyofnourishment@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And we'll have that in the comments when the episode goes live as well.
And
Well,
people can reach out, just reach out, be a part of our mailing list. And
definitely. Yeah, when is the retreat happening?
the retreat is the end of May.
This year.
Yeah, this year.
Okay. So yeah, it's coming up pretty quick. So I'm sure there'll be future retreats if that doesn't work timing wise for people.
Right. And there'll be all different sorts of ways to work online and,
Yeah.
get to
And
dip your toes into some of the creative work we're doing.
yeah, sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming today. It's been such a lovely conversation.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and it's always a deep joy to talk with you and
Yes.
hear what you're bringing out into the world now.
We're out there manifesting all kinds of stuff. So
And
I
we'll be in
love.
touch as that I'm writing my memoir, and I will be reaching
Oh,
out to you.
yes, we'll definitely be in touch. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Thank you all for joining me today on the Intention Podcast. Be sure to listen all the way to the end to get an inspirational quote related to today's episode. If you're looking to bring more intention into your life, reach out so we can set up an exploratory call. Through retreats, monthly soul circles, and my one-on-one coaching, my programs and services can bring you back to a place of intention, allowing you to live a more switched-on life. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, consider my fall retreat happening in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, where we'll enjoy hot springs and vapor caves and deep dives into identity. And now for today's inspirational quote. I am out with lanterns looking for myself. Emily Dickinson. Go out and look at the world through new eyes. Till next time.